get a mic check on for you.
Can you hear me?
Good morning. Welcome to Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. Once again, welcome to the show. It's live financial news talk radio, emphasis on financial talk. 3 hours this morning, we're going to be live. We're going to start out the first hour with Wes Blanchard, attorney at law, estate planning attorney. I think it's a great conversation. You know, here's the theme. What are you going to do with all your stuff when you're done? Not that you have a barn full of it like some of those people on that Pickers show, but oh my gosh, that'd be great. What do we do with all that? Or you have 100 cars stored away on 40 acres. Most of us don't have those problems. Has to do with money, has to do with a house, has to do with a car, maybe some gold coins, stuff here and there. How are you going to make those decisions? What's the repercussions? So we're going to talk about that as well as your questions this hour. 504, here's the phone number if you want to join the conversation. 504-2600-995. You can call, ask me questions. Wes Blanchard's here with us. You can ask him questions, whether it's what to do with this real estate I inherited, a power of attorney, succession that hasn't been completed, or should you really do any estate planning? Why not just let the law take care of it? Because they already have a plan in place for you if you don't want to do something different than that. For myself, and look, here's going to kind of be a theme of the following 2 hours is I'm going to kind of be Social Security centric today. I've got a number of Social Security topics I want to talk about, as well as taking your questions at 504-2600-995. We're streaming over on Facebook Live, as well as our YouTube channel also. And you could utilize the Winning at Life app to connect to the show. You can stream the audio and connect to what we're streaming over on Facebook Live. So you can go over there, check out our page, the Winning at Life page on Facebook, my personal page, Gregory Ricks as well. Wes Blanchard, you have some Facebook stuff going on?
No, I could probably do a bit better with that, honestly. Not much on Facebook these days, but I probably should get into it a little bit.
I didn't know if you had a group going and a bunch of followers on estate planning and such.
No, not much. But we welcome calls, obviously. Give the office a call. Give the radio a call today, right? This is what we're kind of opening the community up to.
Yeah, awesome. So once again, go ahead, download that Winning at Life app, connect to the show and the Winning at Life Nation. You can get weekly updates. We have a Wednesday Q&A that we send out, and e-newsletter, and there's a lot of other stuff that develops through the community to get you resources on as well. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Wes, is there anything in particular you've seen lately that people need to think about, concerns that pop up? I see some of that almost daily, different things.
Yeah, and so anytime we do this show, I really try to take inventory as what we've seen over the last month or so. I try to keep it fresh, but I feel like we end up kind of talking about some of the same topics, but maybe it's because that's what I see on a daily basis as well. As of late, trusts have been a big push. We've had a lot of questions about that. Spent some time this week with a client working through a trust that was set up through another office, and kind of helping her as the successor trustee, right? Parents have passed, helping her through that process and understanding what's next, and helping to get some answers that she wasn't able to get, through the document or through the other attorney's office. So that's been a big push for us. We had some folks that they spent some time with us in the office or on a call, and sort of weighing the options between using a trust versus a will, and what are the benefits of one versus the other. So all in all, that's kind of been what has seemingly been on the public's mind over the last 30 days or so. It's been a lot of revocable trust.
So when you get into revocable versus irrevocable, when might you use an irrevocable trust?
From my perspective, yeah, we're not using them very often at all. You use these irrevocable trusts typically for tax purposes. If you're trying to shelter money, if you are looking to, try to qualify for Medicaid later in life, those kinds of things. But you need to be wary of those sort of selling points. And I call them that specifically. I'm choosing those words specifically as selling points, because I think they can be sold to you. And I don't think that necessarily there's a lot of forethought put into what it looks like to actually operate an irrevocable trust. It can be a very difficult proposition to actually get and extract the benefits out of that irrevocable trust once you've kind of paid for that setup, that arrangement. And so, we always give a lot of caution jumping into situations like that.
But you're not advocating doing that with irrevocable trusts, are you?
The Medicaid planning is not something we particularly advocate. You and I have had this conversation over lunch in the hallways. We bump into one another, and something's on our minds. I have rarely seen these irrevocable trusts that were used for Medicaid planning purposes fulfill their stated intentions. It happens, right? But when you are paying for that arrangement, the selling point is, this is how we're going to help you later in life. The understanding of how to make that instrument work as intended is something that I think is undersold on the public. You really have to be on the ball, and frankly, you need an attorney's help most of the time to make sure that you don't disqualify yourself from using that irrevocable trust for Medicaid purposes. So for that reason, we typically don't recommend it at all, because I don't know someone who wants to maintain their estate plan on a monthly basis, or even a semi-yearly basis. It's not something you want to look at. So understanding that notion, it makes it a lot more difficult to recommend that as a plan. Yeah.
We had a caller recently call in about that in particular. She was asking what regarding a trust, and basically looking at moving the mother's house to a trust. She didn't ask it directly, but I dug in a little bit to find out what she was looking to do, and it was really to move the house to a irrevocable trust, to probably because of spending down assets and protecting that house. And what I suggested was she needs to be careful with that, and actually asked her to reach out to you regarding that. Because we had a show, I don't know, a year or two ago where we talked about that. And the discovery and the conversation was that you could be denied Medicaid if your house that you have is in an irrevocable trust. And the reason, and correct me if I'm wrong, if the reason you would be denied is they want the capability of putting a lien on that house.
So Medicaid itself, right? I think the best thing to understand is, yes, that they're looking for you to qualify, and that's the threshold. So it can be your home, right? Most of the time what we see, it's annuity payments. Sometimes it could be Social Security payments that disqualify you. So when you qualify for Medicaid, it's an asset-based threshold. You can only have so much money, and you can only have so much value in the assets that you hold. Now, there's some carve-outs for assets that don't count, right? But when you boil it down, frankly, most of the folks that are come and talk to guys like you and I aren't going to be able to get down to that threshold. It just isn't possible. So when you have an annuity that's paying you out a certain amount of money every month, when you have Social Security that you've been banking into for the last 45 years and you've got a hefty paycheck coming, it's going to be very, very difficult to continue to qualify for Medicaid. And it should be. It should be. Medicaid is healthcare welfare, right? That's what it boils down to. And so, you know, we all understand we're trying to play the game a bit. It's fine. I'm a lawyer. It's what we do. Okay. I respect that idea. I'm looking at it from the perspective of trying to get you something that works. I can sell you something, right? I can sell you the idea, but we want it to actually work for you. And we don't want it to be a complicated mess. We want it to work, the idea that we're telling you. That's the tough part I have with these irrevocable trusts. I don't see the conversion ratio being high enough for me to recommend them on a regular basis at all.
Yeah, and we get what people are trying to do, and typically a lot of times I see this as the children of the parent that's winding down, and they're looking at how do we preserve these assets. And actually you're not. It's going to have to be spent down. And yeah, long-term care facilities, hospice care generally is not covered, or there's limited payout because you'll burn up those covered days. And they're looking then the assets are going to have to be put towards that. And if you do qualify for Medicaid could work to recover those funds. And another rule on that, which makes this problematic for people that don't understand it, all of a sudden are trying, oh, okay, we can put this in a trust. There's a 5-year look back on that, which kind of would crush that plan because you don't know when things are going to happen. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. We have Wes Blanchard in studio. We'll be back in 3 minutes.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I am near retirement, and I wish I would have been listening to y'all for the last couple of years.
Learn the ins, outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world.
Hey, I love your show.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
That's exactly what I needed to know.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Hello, Gumbo Nation. This is Dwayne Stein with Mortgage Gumbo, and I want to thank you for almost 8 years. You've been listening to me weekly on Mortgage Gumbo, providing you with free education and options advice when it comes to home lending. And while these times may be unique, we've got this. For more than 30 years, I've been mortgage lending in your market, getting clients just like you the best loan at the best rate for the cheapest cost you qualify for. Let's chat. Visit mortgagegumbo.com.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can listen to the show live, and if we're not on at the moment, you can hear a replay of the latest episode of Winning at Life. Whether you're getting a late start on your retirement savings or keeping up with the financial news, Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is there on demand. Hear the Winning at Life show on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
Less than half of Americans have drawn up a will. If you don't have one, you know you need to get one. But what if you do have a will? Is it up to date? Has anyone in your family been married, divorced, or passed away? Have any new family members been born or adopted? Don't leave your loved ones in a bind. Call me and we'll make you a plan or update your existing plan. Hi, I'm Wes Blanchard, an estate planning attorney in Metairie. What's your plan? Find me at wjblanchardlaw.com.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
Do you like having your money follow where momentum is? Remember, everything cycles in the markets there, and you've got to have proper asset classes. And how about a tactical approach that follows momentum? And if there's a black swan effect, like maybe a pandemic, and not have to suffer all of that downside move. That might be why you should take a look at the Invest 50/50 philosophy. Why? I think, always felt they're doing it wrong out there. There has to be a better way to help people grow their money and have it positioned to take income from without it being crushed when the markets go down.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
May we all know that it ain't cool till you wear the new off the sound of the cool.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. We do this for you every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. This hour, we have Wes Blanchard in studio with us. And I kind of got the conversation started regarding trust, revocable and irrevocable. So we kind of took a little bit of deep dive into that. And, you know, there's two choices out there regarding those, revocable and irrevocable trusts. And sometimes, you know, they're trying to utilize that. And one of the things in reading, you know, if you have an estate planning problem, meaning large amount of assets might be, which is, isn't that, it's somewhere over, what is it, 22, 24 million in assets? It's a big number, which only impacts less than probably 2% of the population as far as one of the core reasons of doing so. If you're wanting to also, for example, of having a life insurance trust, and that is you're carrying a lot of insurance that might also impact your estate planning, and that lifetime exclusion, which I kind of gave a big number for in grouping, the using an irrevocable trust would keep that life insurance out of that. Say you were using life insurance to pay the taxes that are coming and instead of bumping up. So that's one way to separate it. And some cases where you're probably, look, in those cases where you're taking care of a child that needs care, special needs trust, are those kind of an irrevocable trust as well?
They are. They're, I would say, their own animal, right? Those are trusts, as you mentioned, that are designed to allow that child or person in general to own some assets or have the ability to utilize them in some form or fashion without necessarily disqualifying them from the governmental benefits that they receive that are necessary to make their life comfortable, right? So they're going to qualify for Social Security, disability. They may get some other governmental benefits on a state level. But if they receive a large inheritance, that would disqualify that person potentially from those benefits until the inheritance was exhausted. And in most cases, the person leaving those assets to that special needs child is not looking for them to be used within the first 4 or 5 years of their life. They don't want them to disqualify that person from government benefits. Instead, what the intention is sort of to supplement that child's life or that person's life. And so that's what the idea of that trust is. And that's why you sometimes hear that term switched out as opposed to special needs. It could be supplemental needs because the idea is interchangeable there. What you're trying to do is supplement that person's life. And that's really when you use that sort of trust. So a bit different. Yeah, they are irrevocable because they're set up by someone else, right? So the person who's setting it up is not even capable generally of using the special needs trust. So those are, again, their own special animal, but I think that it's something that folks need to be aware of, indeed.
I'm looking at a Kiplinger article, and it talks about the good. The only benefits irrevocable trusts offer. And they give us, it looks like, 2 topics here, and we've kind of spoke about one of them, 3. It would be minimizing the burden of estate taxes. So once again, they talk about wealthy people who are willing to gift money every year can use these funds to purchase, say, life insurance in an irrevocable life insurance trust. You also may create a charitable remainder unitrust, which pays income to family and then leaves the remaining trust funds to a charity after their death. Another area they talk about, and you just explained, is helping those with disabilities qualify for government benefits. Disabled beneficiaries on Medicaid and supplemental security income have stringent income and asset limitations. So if they own or receive too much money, they could lose those government benefits. And irrevocable trust can shelter income and assets so these limits are not exceeded. The biggest thing that I kind of brought that up about was, once again, retirees or people getting up in age and depending on income. And for the most part, we know basically half the population does not have enough money saved to support retirement income. So everything's situational. But then, you get in that situation where they don't have the money, well, then they're probably going to qualify. Those with money could eventually get spent down. If somebody said, well, yeah, I've got money saved for retirement. How much do you have? I have $98,000. Yeah, it's probably going to get spent down, subject to, and on the other side, they might have a big pension along with Social Security. Well, that would not qualify them for that. So every situation's kind of different, but I'd say the other look is, I don't think irrevocable trust, the cost of setting that up, those aren't really discounted, are they?
No, they're usually quite pricey. And that is, again, it adds a little bit of the fuel to the fire because you're paying a premium with the idea that, look, this might cost me several $1,000s today, but man, is it going to save me money later in life because I won't be paying for long-term health care. I'll be in a nursing home for free on the government's dime. And so you can rationalize that thought. But what if it doesn't work? Well, then you've spent, a pretty penny for a plan that didn't quite shake out 20 years down the road.
Yeah. And I see one of the bigger things is like the real estate. That question comes up a lot. What can we do to protect that house? You can't, because they're going to deny you on Medicaid if you've got that house setting in a irrevocable trust. So, and also important, if we've got somebody declining on the back end, there's a 5-year look back. They're allowed to keep their house, allowed to keep a car. Some of that money can be spent for taking care of funeral and stuff. Getting that handled are allowable expenses. But if you go and want to start shifting funds, they're going to be looking for that. And the third reason for irrevocable trust I see here in the Kiplinger article is protecting your assets from lawsuits.
So can I jump in quickly?
Oh, yeah, I want you to. That's why I brought it up.
What's missing on those three reasons. I don't hear you looking through that article saying anything about Medicaid or nursing home protection.
No.
Right? And so these are the financial professionals putting articles out here like this, right? We understand what everyone's trying to accomplish, long-term goals, foresight, the best use of financial funds, right? That's, I think, conspicuously absent from that article. And so I think it's a... It speaks for itself.
Doesn't have a time. Oh yeah, you can use it to qualify for Medicaid.
Right?
No, it's
speaks
not
for itself.
really. And actually, you can't. I think it's actually in the law. You can't do that proactively for that purpose.
Yeah. Well, that's really what that look back period is about, right? Because that determination that you can't or you should or should not proactively do that kind of thing, very difficult to prove that up. And so the government said, look, we're not going to play that game with you. Instead, we're going to impose this 5-year, 60-month look back, where if we see that you're transferring money or doing whatever you're supposed to do in and out of that trust, if we see you're overqualified within the last 5 years, snap, it's you're not going to make it. And the other side of that, and we can talk for this, about this for hours on end. But the other side of that, when you don't qualify for Medicaid, and it's because you struck out on that 5-year look back, okay, there's a penalty, a disqualification penalty time. So it's not okay. Let me wait a little while, move this money back, and then go knock on the door again and see if they'll let me in. No, sir. You move into the back of the line for quite some time. There's a formula that they use as to how much money you had that disqualified you. How much were you over that threshold? And then they run it through this math equation and they say, boom, you're disqualified for another 48 months. Well, wow. So now you just spent 5 years doing something that you made a little mistake on, and now you're disqualified for another 4 years. I wouldn't want a plan that I'm throwing risk like that into. That makes no sense to me. I'd rather put together a long-term health insurance plan, whatever you have to do, save some money, talk to a financial advisor about multiplying your money, do something where you're in more control than one little slip-up disqualifying you from your decades-long plan to get long-term health care.
Yeah, you're right about that, of trying to go and do something that probably shouldn't be done could actually impact you worse.
Right.
By trying to do that. And here's the big negative on irrevocable trust, and it's in the article here, and we've seen this play out in the media several times, is somebody, even the wealthy, have a lot of money, they want to transfer money to an irrevocable trust or do so, and then they change their mind later, or one of the kids took them off and I'd like him out, I don't want him to have it, and they're not able to change it. Let's talk about more on undoing one when we get back. That might be a short discussion. You're listening to Winning at Life, and I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. If you want to join the conversation, hey, I'll give you the number when we come back.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I'm your host, Gregory Ricks, a financial advisor here to answer your questions and help you win with your money.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
That's exactly what I needed to know. Simple information from good people.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Could this be your Social Security, your 401k, pension, lump sum, your debt, student debt, credit cards?
You all are so good. I've listened to you for years. Sometimes I'll pull over to the side of the road and just listen.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
If you're unprepared for current market volatility and concerned about how it could impact you, take action now. I'm Gregory Ricks. Let us help you devise a strategy to navigate this market. Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals. Schedule a visit at GregoryRicks.com. We are Gregory Ricks and Associates, the Total Wealth Authority.
The firm provides insurance services, investment, and advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management, LLC, and Gregory Ricks and Associates are not affiliated companies.
Concerned about market volatility, rising inflation, higher taxes? How could it impact you? Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals and win at retirement.
Wine, Wisdom, and Food with Gregory Ricks, Tuesday, September 27th, or Thursday, September 29th, 6:30 at Keith Young Steakhouse in Madisonville. Reserve your seat now, 985-200-3110 or GregoryRicks.com. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
We are living in historic times, extraordinary times. A lot of people need help right now, and I want you to remember your local food bank. Now here in New Orleans, it's Second Harvest Food Bank. Over in Mobile, they've got Feeding the Gulf. But you can find your local food bank, feedingamerica.org. Food donations, monetary donations, or I know you've got some free time. Find your local food bank. Support your local food bank, especially in times like this. Do some good. feedingamerica.org.
Fox News, I'm Karen McHugh. Amid pomp and ceremony in London, King Charles III has now been officially proclaimed monarch.
God save the King!
David White, the officer of arms, announcing today's proclamation. The 73-year-old Charles became king upon the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, Thursday. She was 96. Months of earlier than usual monsoonal rains have led to fatal flooding in Pakistan. The Secretary General of the UN is now there, bringing international aid and calling for action to combat climate change.
We need to stop the madness with which we are treating nature. According to the scientific community, we need to reduce emissions by 45% until 2030.
Antonio Guterres. America is listening to Fox News.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is a copyright of Down South Strategies for the private use of our audience. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without express consent is prohibited. For podcasts, show information, and contacts to our sponsors, go to winningatlife.com or download the Winning at Life app. If you have a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
But you gotta keep your head up, oh, and you can let your head down, hey. You gotta keep your head up, oh, and you can let your head down, hey.
Hey, y'all. You're listening to Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. If you want to join the conversation, it's 504-260-0995. Or reach out to us through the Winning at Life app as well. So how are things going? Markets did a little bit better on the end of the week versus earlier in the week. I still think we have some pain coming. We'll talk more about that in the next hour on where things are going. And probably I'll share with you a strategy to perhaps hedge downside exposure as well. That's pretty cool. Wes Blanchard, welcome back to the show. Been a few weeks since we talked on that. Let's pick back up where we left off, and that's once again on the negative of irrevocable trust. In this article here, it basically says the many negatives of irrevocable trust. If you're not wealthy, there's no good reason to fund an irrevocable trust with life insurance, create charitable remainder trusts, or give substantial property to avoid estate taxes prior to your death. Since there is no federal estate tax below $12.06 million per spouse or $24.12 million per couple in 2022, few people need an irrevocable trust. Yet there's a lot of them that's sold in that reason. And that's where, you come in and you basically, you rarely put those together. And one of the biggest negatives I see, once again, is if you change your mind about what you did there, it's very difficult to unwind, or can it be unwound?
Yeah. So the short answer, which you alluded to on the other side of that break, is no, right? There's some strategies that, you can do a little bit of manipulation, but in large part, you're not going to be able to make these adjustments. We've had some clients that came in that had these irrevocable trusts, and they wanted to do something simple. But that being said, you have to petition the court. So we've helped clients with that, but they're not making major adjustments. And what you have to understand is if you are doing that, for instance, changing beneficiaries, dismissing or terminating a beneficiary, drastically changing the shares, that beneficiary has the ability to fight back. And we saw that not too short a time ago, right, with our football team. And that was a sad saga, right? But one of the things that, you kind of saw, I guess, if you were following it closely, like I was, what you saw was Benson trying to swap these assets out. He said, look, I really just promised you the value of these shares. So instead of actual shares in the Saints, I'm going to give you something else, right? But the problem was, as wealthy as he was, he didn't have anything that was as valuable as those, right? And that's really, it shows you that even when you have all sorts of options at your disposal because of your immense wealth, you still may be limited by what this document does to you.
Yeah.
Right.
So defining that a little bit more, so it does allow you to swap those assets out, but that's also got to be for fair value.
Right.
If something's worth $1 billion and hey, I want to give you $400 million for that, beneficiary might not be too much to go along with that.
Yeah.
So let's move to what kind of stirred this up. Was a caller not long ago talking about putting a house in an irrevocable trust to kind of protect it from Medicaid clawing back funds, which they can do. If somebody does that, and it used to be more of a thing, but we found out that you can be denied Medicaid. You could show up poor, which you will be to qualify for Medicaid, but you can be denied because that house is in a irrevocable trust. And people have done that. So how would they, if somebody's done that, how would they unwind that house out of an irrevocable trust?
It's not, the only option is for you to swap it out with something of like kind value.
And they don't have,
they typically
because
don't
they
have,
just showed up poor.
That's right.
They can't swap it out.
Right. Cart before the horse, right?
Yeah. So I think it's something people should talk about and look at. Is if you've done that, you need to prepare yourself. You've got a problem coming if you believe you might end up that way. And one thing I talk about is I think people are going to live longer. I think so. I do think that. I believe that. Had a discussion the other day with a couple, and yeah, we're planning for the next 20 years. Well, I don't think I'm going to live that long. Well, I'm sorry, but I think you are. We ultimately don't know, but what do you want to err? Well, I think I'm going to be around 10 more years, and you end up being around 20. That 10 years is that's a wide berth on an error of making sure you have money. So when you kind of live longer, that's going to cost more. And our biggest expense in retirement is going to be healthcare costs. And Medicare does not cover everything.
I think the larger point that the listeners are probably getting here, and if not, then I'll just make it pretty concise, is you need options. You need options. If you're going to live longer, if unexpected things are going to pop up, what you don't want is to have, something locked into a trust that, you're planning to use at some point in the future. But man, I could really use that now. I can really use that money now. And this is kind of what this show is all about at its core, right? It's giving options to people. It's helping listeners understand what's available to you. And so when we kind of take a step back, this is why we're kind of banging on these irrevocable trusts this morning, because it limits your options. It can really kneecap you. And so, there has to be a really, really good reason for you to implement that as part of your estate plan and your financial plan altogether. And so this is why we really have a strong focus on revocable trusts. You have all the options in the world. What we're doing with the revocable trust, look, we're getting your will done and we're avoiding successions. That's what we're trying to do.
It kind of creates privacy too from that standpoint. It doesn't have to go through the court.
We had a conversation with a lady this week, and that was her main concern. And I said, look, I don't think that you actually need to utilize this revocable trust. I think you can just go through succession and this will be just fine. And she said, Wes, what you don't understand is how much value I place on my privacy. I don't want people knowing what I have. And I said, look, I'm telling you, just from a financial perspective, it doesn't make sense by the numbers. But if you put a lot more weight on your privacy, and that's what you say, look, that outweighs all of those financial issues, and I'm going to pay for it anyway, okay, that's fine. It's an option for you. This is why we have these conversations. And so, I wouldn't downplay the privacy aspect. We have a lot more folks than you think come in and say, I want to pay for that, and this is why. I'm not worried about paying for these 2 successions. We got money for that. It's no big deal. I don't want my next door neighbor knowing what I have. I don't want my aunt and uncle knowing, my brother and sister. I don't want them knowing how much my kids are getting, how much my wife has now that I've passed away. I don't want that being out there in the open.
And so what tool are they using, to be clear?
That's a revocable trust.
Okay.
Right? Because they've kept their options open during that period. And so they can put things in and out of that trust. They can sell it. They can change their beneficiaries. They can add beneficiaries, slide a special needs trust into it if they want to. You have an open relationship with that revocable trust. You can do whatever you want with it. You can close it down. Hey, I don't want this anymore. It's not working out too much.
You can change your mind.
Yeah. Right. And so those are the things where when you start weighing that irrevocable versus the revocable, to me, it's just such an easy answer. And so we're just super cautious about having folks, being oversold on the irrevocable side of things.
Let's talk about how that relates to IRAs that people maybe are wanting control over. And maybe have used some trust, maybe an irrevocable trust on those as well. We'll talk about that when we come back from the break. If you want to join the conversation, it's 504-2600-995. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. We'll be back in a few minutes.
If you've got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory.
You can email me, info@gregoryricks.com. If you're seeking some help, you're listening to this show and kind of like, I want to know more about the Invest 50/50. I want to know more. Come into the office. We've got one in Metairie, Mandeville, Gulfport, and Baton Rouge. So one number to call, and you could be in Alabama, Texas, Florida, and we have a huge audience in the southeast of the U.S., and we can do business online through Zoom. We got FedEx, Zoom, e-documents, all that kind of stuff going on.
Gregory Ricks and Associates. Find us at GregoryRicks.com or call 504-832-9200. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Mosquitoes. We know them as flying, blood-sucking pests, but did you know that mosquitoes are actually highly intelligent? They can smell human breath, Our sweat helps them choose their next meal, and they use our body heat to find just the right place to bite. Outsmart mosquitoes with help from Mosquito Joe. Mosquito Joe has this time-release capsule that they spray that slowly releases its mosquito death over a course of a month. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
My mother just inherited a couple of annuities. If you could explain the difference between a government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision is.
You now make too much income to contribute to a Roth IRA.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
You all are so good.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
I'm young, I'm 22 years old, and I'm just now starting to get into the 401k and the percentage and stuff. How much money do I need to save to, retire at around, 60, 65 years old?
So first off, one of the first rules, if you're getting a match, you need to get 100% of the match. The match is free money. Those that are putting off turning on their 401k because I need that money every month. No, you need to get the match. That's the priority. What's great for you is you're taking advantage of one of the greatest things on the planet, and that's compound interest and time. At age 22, you're not going to have to put away a lot to achieve this goal versus if you wait to 35 or 40, it's going to seem like a mountainous task.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Winning at Life. Live financial news talk radio. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. We have Wes Blanchard in studio with us today. I think we could talk about several more topics here, but one I want to touch on where there was a lot of planning done, and people have big old IRAs, 401ks. I kind of like to call them those nasty tax-infested accounts. But in cases where somebody's wanting to have control over that money, you can set up an irrevocable trust and I'm simplifying it, but it's actually really complicated. And the rule used to be before the Secure Act is basically you could take RMDs over your lifetime. They call that the stretch rule. Now, that only can happen in certain limited situations now, because with the Secure Act, trusts are downgraded as a planning strategy after the Secure Act, and the new Secure Act regulations do not change that. Most trust beneficiaries will need to empty an inherited IRA in 10 years. And one of the things we see, and we still see this happening where somebody's coming in, need to change my my IRA beneficiary to a trust. Okay, first off, a trust cannot inherit those. Oh, it can, but here's what's going to happen. You just created a taxable event. No, it's going to own the IRA. The IRS says a trust cannot own an IRA. So once again, we're telling you here, you've created a taxable event. That money's going to go into the trust because it's going to come out the IRA because the trust cannot own the IRA. It is going to be a taxable event. And trusts are taxed at max tax bracket over $13,450. It's 37%. So it gets up there to max tax brackets quickly. The situation that it also, if you are going to do it, it has to be through what the IRS refers to as a see-through trust for distribution purposes, meaning it's got to move through to the beneficiary. And it still has to be done in 10 years. So you have limited control because the money has to be passed through on that. So your thoughts on that?
I think that there was a line in your explanation there that summed it up pretty quickly. When you're looking at IRAs and trust, it's a downgraded strategy. And that's what the Secure Act did, right? You know, the synopsis of those trusts beforehand, they were able to force that beneficiary to take the stretch, right? They were able to force them to pull that IRA out over their lifetime. They couldn't get the lump sum of money, which is what people are trying to avoid. We don't think, little Billy can handle all that money at once, so we want to put it in a trust. But this is our IRA money. We're going to force him to use that stretch. Secure Act passes, they say, no, sir. The best you're going to do is make it go the 10 years. So under no circumstances is his lifetime expectancy part of this equation anymore, right? And in general, if you're still going to use that trust, are you willing to have him bite the bullet and take that 37% haircut on day one? Most financial advisors, that's not my profession. I cannot imagine giving a thumbs up on that strategy very often at all.
I'm thinking here, what situation might that work? Leaving it to a trust. And here's the situation I think would, because I go back to, compounding of money, which I love. The compounding growth. It's a core rule is never interrupt the compounding of your money. But let's take and let's just use simple math. Rule of 72. Every 10 years at 7.2%, your money can double. So let's take, you've got $100,000 and you're going to pay taxes on it. Put that $100,000 in a Roth account. And in 10 years, say you're 60, and in 10 years at age 70, you've got $200,000. At age 80, you've got $400,000. At age 90, you've got $800,000. It's all tax-free money. At age 90, you don't die. You live to 100. You're going to be a centenarian. Now you've got $1.6 million. And it's non-taxable money. Kind of say, well, my son, he's probably going to be 70 when I just use that. You're 100, your son's going to be 70. I still don't trust him with money. I don't want to leave it to him. That'd be a situation where you could make a trust, the beneficiary, irrevocable trust. If you having that much control, you can make it the beneficiary because that money's going to go in there. And guess what? It's not going to be taxed, but you've pull the tax status away from it to grow tax-free. So I was thinking, what scenario might that work? Yeah, it's leaving Roth funds behind because you've already solved the taxes. Here's the negative on that, because if you did let Billy have it, he doesn't have to take RMDs, but he does have to spend it down within 10 years, but he could elect to hold on to it till he's age 80 and let it grow, hypothetically at 7.2%. That 1.6 then becomes $3.2 million. Unbelievable gift. And yeah, he's got to cash the account before the end of year 10. But is there any taxes? No. That's the scenario where you could make a irrevocable trust, Benny, of an Roth IRA.
Yeah.
What you're burning is the tax deferral for that additional 10 years when Billy inherits it. That's my only scenario I come up with. And I think that's a good one. If you're wanting to plan that way, that'd be legit from that standpoint. What other, in our last few minutes here, I'm going to let you have the table here. And what do you think it's really important that people should think about and be proactive on that you see people not doing?
Really having an idea of how you want things to shake out for your heirs. Sometimes it's very simple, but you do have to give it thought. I, again, had a meeting this month with a couple. We sat down. We talked about structuring. We talked about who's going to play a role in the estate plans. And And they kind of started asking me, well, what do you think we should do with this? How much do you think I said, we got to slow down. I said, these are decisions that you guys have to sit down over dinner and talk about. I don't know your children. I don't know your grandchildren, right? I want you to come back and say, Wes, this is what we think. This is how we want to give it to these people. How do we make it fit? And so that's where I get tagged in and I say, okay, let's start the structuring work. That thought process, that conversation with your spouse or your loved one is probably not something that crosses your mind very often, but it needs to. It needs to at some point. Sometimes it's super simple, right? You're leaving it to your kids. You got 3 kids. It's 3 ways. Very quick and easy. But for others, it's not. It's not. You have a bigger picture. And every once in a while, we get a couple in the room and they start kind of talking in different directions about what they want to do. And it's playful, but they're looking at each other thinking, whoa, we haven't had this conversation. And so, I usually grab the bull by the horns and say, all right, let's just talk it through now. And I'll start giving you some structuring options. This way, when y'all are figuring out where it's all going to land, okay, you've had the ability to weigh how the structure fits into that plan if we use, your plan versus mine, right? Which is more efficient, which gives us more options and things like that. But that's a conversation that needs to happen. So I think that usually holds up some estate planning from happening. That's part of, I think, the largest part of the procrastination that we see. So give that some thought. Give that, a talk with your spouse. That would probably be, I think, the easiest thing to kind of get a spark going for estate planning.
I think actually there's a document we have, The Road Beyond Retirement is a document that we have. I'm going to have to look up to see where that download is for that. We do have that, and maybe helping in that discussion as well is to think about down the road. What about family discussions on that? Somebody puts together stuff with that. Do you give them instructions about, now, here's what you need to share?
Sharing, in my opinion, is always optional. I do think it is optimal to have at least one party aware of what this plan looks like other than yourself. That role as an executor or a trustee is something that people need to grapple with for some time. So, you definitely want to give that some consideration, kind of putting that out there. But on other occasions, I certainly understand the idea of maybe not letting that cat out of the bag sooner than it needs to be,
So not necessarily have that discussion, which comes back to that document that I brought up. It's gregoryricks.com/roadmap. What my family should know about my belongings, business affairs, and wishes when it's time for them to maybe step in and help with those things. You've been listening to Winning at Life. If you want to join the conversation or have a direct conversation with Wes, you can go to the website, gregoryricks.com, and reach out there. Do you have a particular number? Or
yeah, you can jump on wjblanchardlaw.com or 504-500-8473.
We'll be back in a few minutes.
Ricks & Associates Wealth Management Studios, WRNO FM, New Orleans, an iHeart radio station.
Remembering a Tennessee Mother. I'm Pam Huso, Fox News. Eliza Fletcher is being laid to rest in Memphis. She was found murdered after being seen on surveillance video being forced into an SUV while jogging. The suspect, Cleotha Henderson, has a long criminal record.
Between the ages of 11 and 16, Henderson stood before a judge at least 17 times, including when, at 14 years old, he was charged with a delinquent juvenile act of rape against an unnamed male. And in 2000, at 16 years old, he pleaded guilty to the gunpoint abduction of a prominent Memphis attorney and served 20 of a 24-year sentence.
Fox's Alexandria Hoff. The funeral for Queen Elizabeth will be held in the coming days.
President Biden will attend the Queen's funeral. And of course, a lot changed quickly in Britain. At the beginning of this week, Queen Elizabeth was the ruling monarch, Boris Johnson, the prime minister. Just a few days later, King Charles, now the ruling monarch, and Liz Truss, the prime minister.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson. Today in London, Charles III was officially proclaimed king. Tomorrow marks 21 years since the 9/11 terror attacks. President Biden will observe the somber anniversary at the Pentagon. Averting a nuclear disaster was the topic of a phone call between the president of Ukraine and his French counterpart. The Zaporizhzhia plant in southeast Ukraine is occupied by Russian forces and has been the site of relentless shelling. Global leaders are calling for the creation of a demilitarized zone. Yesterday, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin reiterated U.S. support for Ukraine.
We can only do what we've done thus far in continuing to support Ukraine so that they can have the strongest hand on the battlefield.
Ukraine says its counteroffensive is making gains. America's listening to Fox News.
You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. Thanks for joining us for the next 2 hours. I am your host, a financial advisor, CEO, founder of Gregory Ricks and Associates. It's my day job. On Saturdays, for over 12 years now, I've hosted the Winning at Life live financial news talk radio show, helping you with ideas to make better decisions with your money. You know, last hour I was kind of talking about Roth IRA as a pretty cool way to go in compounding money. We'll talk about that a little bit here early in this hour, but I'm going to spend some time on Social Security today as well. I've got a few articles I want to cover with you and give you some insight to what's going on there. It's helpful information, as always. One of the magic things about the show is the callers, you the listeners, your involvement. 504-260-0995. You could reach out to us through the Winning at Life app, text, email, call through the app as well, or email directly info@gregoryricks.com if you have some questions there regarding investing decisions, like what should you do? Maybe Social Security decisions. What about that 401k? Debt. Getting out of debt. And that is something we need to work on. We carry too much debt. We need to minimize that. How about utilizing a budget? 70% of the people do not utilize a budget or know what their inflow versus their outflow is. You know, if you see yourself running short before the next paycheck, a third of the workers out there kind of have that problem, and it goes across even people that make more than $300,000 a year fall into that as well. You probably think, oh, it's just the lower income people and some of the middle class. No, it goes to high income earners as well. If you're seeing that, it might be, or you see you're having to use the credit cards more and then you see that balance growing. Yeah, that could be a budget problem. We could talk about that as well. But one of the things to think about instead of, and you might not like, oh my gosh, I don't even reconcile my checking account anymore. Well, that's pretty much an automated thing now. for you. But what you might want to do is a budget audit. I don't know if we've got that available ready on our website, a budget worksheet or download. I'll have to check that on the next break. But here it is. And look, those are easy to find and do. And once again, if it's not on the website, we've got a couple of versions, a printable PDF or a worksheet through Excel that we could send out to you. Just send an email over to info@gregoryricks.com and request that. We can send that over to you. But when I talk about doing an audit is kind of, just do an audit. Go through and see what you're spending, what your bills are, everything, and see, and probably going to turn up some waste. And the easier part is, what income do you have going in? If everything works out to monthly, then you're kind of looking at last month's expenses. Now, some cases people have, I pay this on an annual basis, I pay that on an annual basis, but that's in the first quarter of the year, second quarter, I pay this, and then I don't have that the rest of the year. So you might want to look at average is a look back over 12 months. So you get everything in when you do that audit and you have an idea of what's going on. Here's one reason people don't do that. It's scary. Like, oh no, I don't want to know all that. I think it might be a healthy thing to do. It's kind of like a health audit. When you go to your doctor for that annual review, I know everybody doesn't do that, but I do. I don't have to have anything wrong. I want to go check up, get blood tests and everything. It's kind of health audit. And they go through what vitamin, are you still taking these vitamins? Are you still taking this for that and this for that? And yeah, has anything changed? How about your pain? Do you have pain? What's your pain level today? Those things. So it's kind of a health audit. And then they take me through these other tests, vision, hearing, pulse, on arms and leg. They go through the whole thing. So it's kind of that health audit every year to make sure, and then they do the blood workup and all, and you come back, get those tests. So why not do that from a financial audit and see where you are? Because what your goal should be, why would you want to do that? Why would I want to do this? Because you need to have margin. You need to have a gap. You need to have more income coming in than income going out. That's margin. So what we want to do with that margin is we want to be able to save money. Well, why should I save money? You just should. It should be a normal thing that you do is save money every month. If you got enough in emergency savings, then you should be saving, investing for long term. Well, I do it through my 401k. You might not be doing enough there. You're probably going to need more. And that's the other thing of why to sit down with me in my day job and my team at Gregory Ricks and Associates, the Total Wealth Authority. You might want to look, well, what am I probably going to need in the future? How much should I save? What type of return should I expect to get there? So it's kind of like an audit of where are you going? Because if you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there? Real simple. You might need a roadmap to get to that destination or realignment. I'll share something with you also that I think is pretty neat. And basically, we use 4 asset classes and a number of models in those in the guided planning system on the investment part, which is the invest 50-50 philosophy. And I think it's important. Why can't we just put it all in the S&P 500? Well, you can kind of see That's not working well this year. The market's down. And one of the rules I have is nothing works all the time. Real simple rule. And it's true. Nothing works all the time. Somebody might say, well, I like fixed indexed annuities. Okay, they don't work all the time either. Why? When the market's down, if you're linked to the S&P 500, you're at zero. So it didn't grow that year. But it does grow most years historically, because if you look by decades, the market's up 7 out of 10 years. But it doesn't work all the time. And just like the S&P doesn't work all the time. Bonds, well, what about them this year? Well, they're not doing well this year. So we use 4 asset classes. I like some stocks, and we do those through exchange-traded funds. But we've got different models that we utilize there, and I'm going to come back to that. I also like bonds, but not in the traditional sense right now, because interest rates are going up, so bond values are going down, and it looks like the Fed's likely to, the talk is 0.75% increase, 75 basis points. It's going up, which means values can go down. So we are basically using some alternatives in those exchange-traded funds so they're less sensitive to interest rate going up. We also like quantitative tactical, QT. I like that because it follows momentum, and which that strategy is holding a lot of cash right now, because where is momentum? It's just not there. And I don't mind that money pausing or going to the sidelines, so to speak, going to cash or going to money market until momentum shows back up. And even when things are going good, everything doesn't always stay in favor. So we might interchange some of the players and continually look for what's in favor and make shifts there. And then on the other side, I do like me some no-risk growth. I like to get the upside of the indices and strategies without having downside exposure. Index-linked investing. We use insurance companies that, it's fixed indexed annuities to where you get upside growth, no downside exposure. One of the 4 asset classes. Now, here's the other thing that I factor in is investor psychology, how they think, how they react. And even though with that strategy we've talked about, you've got less than 25% of assets exposed to downside of the market. And that could be enough to disrupt a person. So here's another model that, depending on how people are going to react, is we use a buffer strategy, which limits the downside exposure. Oh, well, it kind of caps the upside on the other side, but it greatly reduces exposure while keeping money working and not interrupting the compounding there. And that's one of the important things we want to avoid, is not try to figure, well, how do I time the market? I don't want to I'm down. I don't want to go down anymore. What you don't want to do is interrupt the compounding. This market is going to come back, and history tells us it is going to set new highs in the future. Don't miss that upside. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. We'll be right back.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I'm your host, Gregory Ricks, a financial advisor here to answer your questions and help you win with your money.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
That's exactly what I needed to know. Simple information from good people.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
What's cooking, Gumbo Nation? This is Dwayne Stein, your local mortgage lender. Bread prices up. Milk is up. Inflation way up. I know this can all be overwhelming. That's why you need to know I got you. Tens of thousands have trusted me. and my team with their largest investment, the home. So while things look cloudy, let's work to make sure when the dust settles, your family is ready to take advantage. Visit mortgagegumbo.com.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can listen to the show live, and if we're not on at the moment, you can hear a replay of the latest episode of Winning at Life. Whether you're getting a late start on your retirement savings or keeping up with the financial news, Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is there, on demand. Hear the Winning at Life show on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
If you've been listening to Winning at Life for a while now, you probably already know that estate planning is more than just a will. You may need a trust. You definitely need both of your powers of attorney. So what's your plan? Hi, I'm Wes Blanchard, an estate planning attorney at offices in Metairie. Listen, don't leave your loved ones in a bind. Call me and we'll make you a plan or update your existing plan. Find me at wjblanchardlaw.com.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
One of the core jobs with annuities that goes back hundreds of years is to guarantee income for life. It has that option in there. We like to use it as a distribution tool of income that, markets go all to hell and your assets won't go down. So that should be part of your blend to help levelize volatility with some risk-averse assets that's going to grow despite what's going on in the markets. It can be pension-like money, and a lot of what we do is bond-like money in that world. Bond-like is what annuities do, not what they are.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
You're listening to Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. Thanks for joining us today. Hey, by the way, any mosquitoes bothering you? They don't bother me. I have a buffer. Kind of maybe a barrier would be a better term for that. So, and the team that creates that barrier for me is Mosquito Joe, neworleans.mosquitojoe.com. I was out there on the swing yesterday evening, having a glass of red wine, talking with my wife, and just enjoying this kind of the feeling of fall right now. And there was nothing bothering me, no buzzing around or anything. And that's because they come out there and they make sure I have that barrier treatment that lasts, and they come on a regular basis to take care of it. So once again, if that's bothering you, reach out to my friends over there at neworleans.mosquitojoe.com. Let's see, where was I at? I've got so much to cover here today with you. We're going to talk about some Social Security stuff coming up, probably for the remainder of the show. We'll see where that goes. But one of the things, I'll go back to what I was talking about at last segment, so I don't want to get away from that. So when we're looking at how can we improve situations out there for investing, and part of investing is what makes this easier for the investor to get long-term growth. And this also goes in as we get older, we're probably going to be more conservative. And I had a question the other day regarding, do you make adjustments as people age? And I had this question recently, and in terming it, I've had that question this year and the year before and the year before that. is, do you make adjustments with people age? Because what happens is people think, first off, when there's volatility, which we've not had much of those discussions the previous 10 years, because the market was up 9 out of the past 10 years, previous years. So there's really not that question. But now there's discomfort because it's more of a drop, and they're concerned about the future, that there could be more downside exposure next year and even the year after that. We had that back in 2001 and 02. Back there, we had 3 consecutive years of negative returns, and it worries people. And one of the things, when you are in investor psychology, and here's a situation whereas many investors find losses to be much more distressing than missing out on potential gains. They'll get hyper-focused on the money going down and not worry so much about the gains. And you can tell them, history tells us we get us about a 10% downturn every 2 years. Out of the past 33 and a third years, we've had 20 times that the market has dropped 20% or more. But for it to finish the year down 20% is actually a rare occurrence historically as well. Doesn't happen much. But with all that said, they're still worried about the going down. And one of the things we've added into our models on the investing side of the Invest 50/50, and once again, I like me some stocks, but through ETFs, it's that area. We like some bonds, we like some quantitative tactical, and we like indexed linked growth where there's no downside exposure. So here's what we've added in is a buffer, or buffer exchange traded funds, or buffer ETFs, as a potential solution to this well-known problem of being bothered by going down. So give you a simple example of what a buffer does for you. And let's say you're utilizing a 10% buffer, which means if you've got money working, the first 10% down, how much would your account be down? It'd be down 0. If the market is down 11% with a 10% buffer, then you would be down 1%. If the market's down 12, then you would be down 2%. You see where that's going in that case. And for example, on the opposite side, you would probably get all the upside, for example, to up to 12%, or the buffer might have it at 10. So once on the opposite side, these are essentially structured products, and some of these have, with some firms that do this, some of them have where they expire, or it might be you're able to do this for a 1 year period, then you're out. You've got that exposure. Sometimes some situations are commonly known to be set up on a quarterly basis. What we're utilizing is where they're readjusted and monitored and managed on a month-to-month basis. So actually, it's not going to expire on you, and you could be moving through, and it doesn't have to be, well, what do I do after a year? Or what's my exposure after the quarter? Well, the models we're utilizing is this can be an ongoing strategy. And I think that's a pretty cool idea. It's just how often does the market grow above 12%, for example? Kind of say, well, I'm not going to get anything above 12. Well, once again, it doesn't do that often, does it? when you look at historicals there. So something to think about. If you want some information on that, have some questions, want to talk further about our guided planning system process, and more information on how we structure investing to kind of keep things moving in your favor, increase the probability of success. Here's the office number. And we've got offices in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Mandeville, Louisiana, Metairie, Louisiana, that's the New Orleans area, and Gulfport, Mississippi. And we can do phone calls, we can do Zoom meetings, or you can come into the office for a visit, sit across the table. And, it's real easy. You don't have to bring your checkbook. That first visit is a fit visit. You're not going to be making financial decisions on that first visit. Nobody's expecting you to do so. So it's kind of this worry-free, we want to get to know each other and see if there's a fit. From our standpoint, we're looking for people that are nice, going to be nice to our staff, buy into the guided planning system process. That's the type of people we're looking for and making sure that's a fit. So from your side is you got to like us, be comfortable, and make sure we're bringing value to you. And one of the things is, can you keep the compounding going? Yeah, we don't want to interrupt the compounding. And on our side is we're looking for criteria that you're a fit, that we can also bring value to you, that we can actually help you win with your money. That phone number to start that conversation, however you want to do it, to call in to set up a meeting or just start with a phone call or do a video meeting. You might not say, well, I live in Texas. That's a long ways to drive to the Baton Rouge office. No, let's do a Zoom meeting. If you're over in Mobile, I don't want to drive to Gulfport. Okay, let's do a Zoom meeting or start with a phone call. That phone number is 504-832-9200. You can call right now, and our service will take your information, and a team member follow back up with you on Monday. Or you could wait till Monday. The email is info@gregoryricks.com. And now you know the website. You can go over to gregoryricks.com and find out more about us there. I don't give the office number out that much on the show, but I'm going to give it to you again. 504-832-9200. Earlier I talked about doing a budget audit. We can help you get started with that. Find out what's going on. Find out where are you on the financial path. And with what you're doing, is it getting you where you need to be? You might need to start making some adjustments, thinking about it. You might not be happy where you're at. You might be wanting to consider a change. And one thing you have to understand is when you're working with us, you're going to be working with a process. So no matter who you speak to on our team at any office, you're having the same conversation as somebody else meeting at the other office or on a Zoom, because we all follow the guided planning system process. And those core areas of that is investment planning, income planning, estate planning, healthcare planning, and tax planning. That number again to reach the office is 504-832-9200. The website's gregoryricks.com. We'll be back in a few minutes and we'll start talking about Social Security.
You all are so good. I've listened to you for years.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I am near retirement, and I wish I would have been listening to y'all for the last couple of years.
Learn the ins, outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world.
I have a broker. He has no idea what you and I just talked about.
From your 401k to your IRA to your pension to your Social Security to your Medicare.
Hi, Greg. Appreciate your service to the community.
From your ETFs to your precious metals.
Your program helps to ground me. There's some personal, real life there.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and wherever else you can find podcasts, probably.
That's exactly what I needed to know. Hey, I love your show.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. The firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government or any governmental agency.
Hi, I'm Gregory Ricks. Today we see rising costs at the grocery store and the gas pump. Have you prepared for rising inflation and higher taxes in your financial plan? Get our guide, Inflation and Your Retirement. Go to GregoryRicks.com/inflation to get our guide today. We are Gregory Ricks & Associates, the Total Wealth Authority.
Our firm provides insurance services, investment, and advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management, LLC, and Gregory Ricks & Associates are not affiliated companies.
Concerned about market volatility, rising inflation, higher taxes? How could it impact you? Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals and win at retirement.
Wine, Wisdom, and Food with Gregory Ricks, Tuesday, September 20th, or Wednesday, September 21st, Fleming Steakhouse in Metairie. Reserve your seat now, 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com.
Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Cancer Crusaders has been raising funds for cancer research in New Orleans since 1976. Cancer Crusaders, Inc. is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization with no administrative overhead. Cancer Crusaders has raised over $4 million so far, and all of that money goes to the Louisiana State University Health Sciences Center Foundation and the Tulane Cancer Center in New Orleans, where they are literally working on a cure for cancer. Get involved, donate, volunteer, or attend a fundraiser. CancerCrusadersLA.com.
Fox News, I'm Karen McHugh. President Biden making known his plans for the funeral of Britain's Queen Elizabeth.
President Biden will attend the Queen's funeral, and of course, a lot changed quickly in Britain. At the beginning of this week, Queen Elizabeth was the ruling monarch, Boris Johnson, the prime minister. Just a few days later, King Charles, now the ruling monarch, and Liz Truss, the prime minister. Here's President Biden in Ohio confirming that he will attend the funeral.
You going to the Queen's funeral, sir?
Yes. I don't know what the details are yet, but I will be going.
Have you called the king, sir? Have you spoken to the king?
I know him. I haven't spoken to him. I did not call him yet. But thank you.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson reporting. Russia's defense ministry says it's pulling back troops from two areas in Ukraine's eastern Kharkiv region, where a Ukrainian counteroffensive has made significant gains in the past week. America is listening to Fox News.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is a copyright of Down South Strategies for the private use of our audience. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without express consent is prohibited. For podcasts, show information, and contacts to our sponsors, go to winningatlife.com or download the Winning at Life app. If you have a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. Yeah, I've been in financial services advising people for a long time. A lot of situations, you know. One of the important things in what we do is planning for spousal continuation. Because if you're a couple, and most are couples that we work with, and one person's going to pass before the other, it's typically what happens. And and I've had this conversation many times, is that one thing you have with us is a sounding board. those things, bouncing ideas, or what if we did that? What if we did this with the money? And other discussions. There's one I shared years ago. And I'll give you an example of a conversation had years back. And I get a phone call from this client, and it was one of those stories we worked with a number of years, and it actually, I'll give you even backstory as part of the example, is where, well, I don't know if I'd be a fit, if I have enough money. Well, let's sit down and talk about that, because that really is important. If you're not a fit, it is okay. If you are a fit and can bring value, then that would be good too. But there's no harm. It's kind of like, once again, those kind of audit. It's a situational audit. Let's see where you're at and how things are going if we could provide help. And it turns out we were a fit, and she had more assets than she thought. And there was even a couple years later coming in, Gregory, I found some another folder. There's more. Kind of like, Susie, is there any more of these folders? We need to know. Kind of market's volatile and stuff like that. And there weren't, but going forward, executed a plan, and then eventually turned on income. And she had lost her spouse during this story I'm scaling for you. And then I, sometime later, get a call, and Susie says, I need a little bit of help. Took my car to the shop, and they said, I need tires. Not sure what to do about that. Can I afford it? And I said, yep, you have emergency money. You've got income coming in. Kind of reviewed everything with Susie about the situation. And I said, and you need to go back over there and get tires on your car. You've got, if you're needing tires, you need to get that taken care of, and everything's going to be fine. Then she said, oh, okay. By the way, my dishwasher quit some 6 months ago. So she bounced that off of me, once again, the sounding board. And I helped her through that situation, and even recommended a couple places where she could go and get value for that, and they would see that it would be installed and so forth for her. And you could just tell it just created peace of mind out there. And I think the reason I'm sharing this with you is because, when you're looking to work with somebody and get help with the money, it's just not this immediate gratification. This should be a part of you deciding a fit. Is this something, and is this an organization and a team, and do they have a process that I can work with and buy into for the long range? And you have to think, well, what if somebody changes out there? What if they bring in somebody else? Will I have consistency going forward? And if I need something, if I just need to talk, is this an organization that can help me with that? That's what I'm getting across to you, these different situations there. And when you're looking for a fit, it should be something that you're looking at being long range, that there's going to be consistency there and be there for you. And you've probably heard me say before, we have to start with a plan, but I think that might be overused, because a plan is just the start. It's the ongoing planning and the adjustments. Don't look at the annual meetings every year as a review. That can be done real quick. If it was about a review, well, that's just a few-minute meeting. Those are easy to do. It's about the adjustments, the tweaks, the changes that we're looking at going forward. What are we needing to make adjustments on? What are we needing to perhaps do next year and the following year? To be looking forward at what adjustments, what changes are you having besides what maybe the firm's planning, what we're planning to do going forward? What are we seeing? What's our insights? And then what are adjustments do you possibly see coming? I might be retiring next year. Or in 3 years, is when I'm thinking of turning on Social Security. Or you could come back and say, I'm thinking about doing that next year. Or it might be thinking about doing it right now. So life changes. It's like if you're sailing a boat. Once you hop in, pull up the anchor, and set the sail. Are you done? No, that's just the start. It's about the adjustments going forward to those sails to get you to where you're wanting to be. Where are you on the financial path and what adjustments are you going to make going forward? Call my office if you'd like to talk further about this, 504-832-9200. The website is gregoryricks.com. And if you want to start a conversation here on the radio show, looking for some insight, some help, here's the show number, 504-260-0995. We're going to come up on a break here in a couple minutes, and then we're going to come back and talk some more about, we're going to start talking about Social Security there. I've got a question here. And there's articles in a few papers, and I've got a few here with Tom Marginal. And he's got a pretty good book as well out there. Where do I have that book setting here? Got it on my desk somewhere. There it is. Give you his book. It's a simple read if you want to know more. 10 easy to understand fact sheets that will answer all your Social Security questions about Social Security. It's called Social Security Simple and Smart by Tom Marginal. So the first we'll jump into here, a question. I found my Social Security retirement benefits over the phone this morning, but to be honest, I wasn't all that impressed with the clerk who took care of me. Now I'm worried that he will mess up the amount of my Social Security benefit and I won't be paid correctly. Is there anything I can do about that? Well, I have an answer for you. What you can do is not worry. Your local Social Security representatives aren't really involved in computation of Social Security benefits. All Social Security benefits are figured by the Social Security Administration's national computer system, and that system has a remarkable record of accuracy. So we're pretty sure you're going to be paid correctly on your Social Security there. And I know sometimes you can worry, like, they just didn't know the answer or they had trouble getting me the information. Well, you don't have to worry. They're not the ones running the calculations. There's a system in place for that. Just like the analysis we do for you on creating a Social Security analysis and report, we're using software to provide you those numbers on, like, what's the best time for you to turn on your benefit. If you want more information about that, reach out to me at gregoryricks.com. We'll be right back.
If you've got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory.
I do a whole lot of reading daily, and man, some of the paths it takes me down, and next thing I know, I'm like, I feel like I hit a treasure trove of articles that were just connecting. I'd move from one to the next. And what I do with some of those that I think are really probably worth you taking a look at, I've got a news blog of stuff I read that gets posted. They probably add an article a day, but I read a lot more than that. Some of those I talk about on the show. This is serious stuff right here, but it's GregoryRicks.com, and go to the news blog tab to get a feel of what I look at.
Gregory Ricks and Associates, 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
When I was growing up, my mom relied on old wives' tales to get rid of outdoor bugs. One method included putting 2 pennies in a bag of water and hanging them throughout the backyard. And let's not forget Mom's go-to, the citronella candle, which never worked. It's the 20s. We have science and much more thorough ways to get rid of bugs. Call Mosquito Joe. Mosquito Joe has this time-release capsule that they spray that slowly releases their mosquito death over a course of a month. Because mosquitoes suck. NewOrleans.mosquitojoe.com.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I am near retirement, and I wish I would have been listening to y'all for the last couple of years.
Learn the ins, outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world.
Hey, I love your show.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
That's exactly what I needed to know.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
You know, one of the things I get questions about often is about investing. Hey, I've got some money. What should I do? Where should I put it? I'll ask next, how much money are we talking about? Well, yeah, I've got $5,000 to invest. So where should I go with it? And then the next question would be, is that emergency money? Do you have another account with emergency money in that? And a lot of times the answer is no. Then my next point would be, that sure sounds like emergency money. And you need to have that before you go elsewhere, saving or investing.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
And a little bit of chicken fried. Cold beer on a Friday night. A pair of jeans that fit.
Winning at Life. Live financial news talk ready. Had a frog in my throat there. Got him out. Hey, once again, if you're looking for some help, I know you don't, not everybody wants to call in and talk about it on the radio show. You can call my office, 504-832-9200. You've got Social Security questions, retirement questions, want to find out where you're on the path, want to come in and have a conversation, a fit conversation. See if we might be a fit to work together. Because that's what that first meeting is. Non-threatening. Nobody's expecting you to make financial decisions. Don't bring your checkbook. You know, a couple helpful things we like to perhaps have for that first visit or during the first visit. And if it's not, we can have it later. But you know, kind of like, what do I bring? Well, you don't have to bring much. Bring yourself. Could be enough. But, you know, what's helpful is account statements, like your investment, retirement accounts, your 401k statement, whatever your statements are of that. Your Social Security statement, most recent, would be helpful. And your tax return. Yeah, we think tax efficiency is really important. You know, there's a conversation I had a little ways back, and a fella came in there and he's, you know, looking at his income and RMDs and so forth, and he basically saying, yeah, I have to take out $30,000 on RMD's ballpark is what I think it's going to be next year, and we knew the exact number of what it's going to have to be. It's slightly more than that, but he's saying, I'm wanting to take out another $30,000, and at some point I asked, why do you want to take out an extra $30,000? Because you've got 6 figures in emergency fund. Says, I'm just wanting to shift funds away from those IRAs and put the money elsewhere and pay taxes. So where is there a particular place you want to put money? I think I'm just going to put it in CDs. I don't want that market risk and so forth. So I also talked to him about buffer once again to protect them from the first 10% down if there was market risk like that. But I said, if you're going to shift another $30,000 out the IRA, I said, have you thought about a Roth conversion? He didn't have a Roth account. So I explained to him how Roth accounts work and how they grow and the money comes out tax-free from the growth. You just got to leave it there for 5 years. You've got to have established a Roth account for 5 years. And after that, it doesn't matter when you did the conversions or timing. The 5-year clock is done for all purposes, for all future money that's converted. And I said, and think about the magic of compounding tax-free money. $30,000 would, in 10 years, could possibly at 7.2% hypothetically could become $60,000, and then that $60,000 in another 10 years can become $120, and another 10 years at 120 becomes $240, and all you did was pay taxes on $30,000. But it would compound even more if you were doing that much every year. And it's like, I didn't think about that way. And I said, see the value we bring to you. And it's just having conversations, which also leads me to probe a little bit, ask questions as to the why, because I could have not asked, but that's not me. I ask questions. And now we found something better is, if wanting to shift $30,000 and pay tax, why not put it to a Roth and grow money tax-free? And then we shifted into a discussion about who he's leaving it to. And probably the expectation he's going to outlive his wife. And then leave it to a non-spouse beneficiary, which has to spend it down over 10 years. So that Roth money won't have to take RMDs from it, and it could still grow and defer for another 10 years because that non-spouse Benny is going to be an adult. And they could leave that Roth money there for 10 years, but that IRA money they have to start taking out because it's past RMD age for the owner that's leaving it behind. And then it, of course, has to be depleted. And it's, it's just paying taxes on all that money. Get a better deal today. So that's some of the conversations we have, the value we bring at Gregory Ricks and Associates Total Wealth Authority. So, and I think it's one of the magic things here is just sharing conversation, thoughts about that. Let's go to another Social Security question here. We have a slightly different marital dynamic than most couples. My wife is the primary wage earner. She has always made more money than me. I've always made a decent income, but my wife, and the wife's a physician, has made a great income. As we're approaching retirement age, is there anything special we need to know about Social Security? Actually, not really. Your situation's not out of the norm, other than maybe it's the wife's earning more and earned a lot more over the years in income. So Social Security is essentially gender neutral. In other words, the same benefits are paid to wives are also paid to husbands. And just as a wife is always paid her own benefit first, so too will you be paid your own Social Security retirement benefit. Only after that will they look to your wife's record to see if you can get any extra spousal benefits. But that spousal rate for the wife or husband is only somewhere between 30 to 50%, depending on the age when you file. So it's doubtful you'll get any husband's benefit on your wife's because of that 30 to 50% of their FRA benefit. That is while she's alive. If she dies before you do, and assuming you meet all the eligibility requirements, you'll get widow's benefits on her record, which can be as high as 100% if you are over your full retirement age. If you turned it on before FRA, those survivor benefits would be reduced some as there. How much time we got? Another couple minutes here before the break. So let's see here if I can get into another question here for you. I'm just turning 62. I was going to wait until 67 to file my Social Security, but I'm worried that Congress is going to pull the rug from under me and cut my benefits or start means testing benefits. So I think I'm filing now. And the question was that, what do you think? I think, here's the answer. I think you should never make a Social Security decision based on politics. There is no question that somewhere down the road, Congress is going to deal with Social Security's pending financial shortfall. But I'll bet my next paycheck that when you do, the reforms will have a long lead time. In other words, those changes won't affect near-term retirees, but rather people who might be retiring 10 or 20 or even more years from now. For example, when they raise the retirement age from 65 to 67, they did so gradually over a span of about 40 years. So when they make changes, it's going to be something that's going to really take effect down the road and later. Just like moving the full retirement age from 65 to 67, yeah, that's actually evolved over a number of years for that process to fall in place. So once again, in the next hour, we're going to talk some more Social Security, and we're going to take your calls, see if we can help you with your financial decisions. I'll recover some of the things that have got a whole nother audience coming into the show for the next hour, and if you want to continue to join, I'll retrace a little bit of what we've talked about and cover some new things as well. If you're wanting to start a conversation, get some help, whether you're in, want to come to the Baton Rouge office, the Metairie office, the Mandeville office, the Gulfport, Mississippi office, just call one number, 504-832-9200. Couple of points I've been forgetting to mention to you. Upcoming events. We've got some Wine Wisdom and Food Experiences September 20th and 21st at Fleming's Steakhouse and Wine Bar in Metairie. And then I'll be speaking in Madisonville at Keith Young's Steakhouse. That's September 27th and 29th. You can call the office if you want to see if you can get on the list to attend. You will need to get on the list to attend. That number is 504-832-9200. We're going to be right back in about 6 minutes.
From the Gregory Ricks & Associates Wealth Management Studios, WRNO-FM, New Orleans, an iHeartRadio station.
A state funeral is scheduled. I'm Pam Huso, Fox News. Britain's Queen Elizabeth will be memorialized at Westminster Abbey a week from Monday. Until then, royal officials say her coffin will lie in state at Westminster Hall. Today, the Queen's son Charles was proclaimed king.
There are so many ceremonies that will take place as we see this transition of power. So much tradition already taking place today, like the Ascension ceremony. But one thing that is interesting about this, no one participating today had ever done this before, because the last time that this kind of ceremony took place was in 1952.
Fox's Alex Hogan. Britain's Prince of Wales has released a statement following the loss of his grandmother. William said in part, she was at his side at his happiest moments and by his side during the saddest days of his life. At Windsor Castle, Prince Harry and his wife Meghan have joined Prince William and his wife Kate to greet crowds. A final farewell in Memphis to a mother of two who was kidnapped and murdered while jogging. Eliza Fletcher's accused killer is behind bars. For the first time since abortion rights were reversed nationwide, the head of the Supreme Court is speaking publicly.
At a judicial conference in Colorado Friday, Chief Justice John Roberts defended the Supreme Court. Roberts says he was concerned that recent critics of the court's controversial decisions have questioned the legitimacy of the court, which he said was a mistake.
Fox's Samantha Liebman. Justice Roberts didn't mention any specific cases. A piece of American-made military hardware left behind by U.S. forces in Afghanistan has gone down in Kabul. A Black Hawk helicopter operated by members of the Taliban crashed due to a technical problem. America's listening to Fox News.
Jason in the House, the Jason Chaffetz podcast. There is always someone doing something stupid somewhere. Dive deeper than the headlines and the party lines as I take on American life, politics, and entertainment. Join me, Jason Chaffetz, every Wednesday as I shed light on the news and make some predictions along the way. You never know who will drop in. Subscribe now on foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you download podcasts.
Connect to Fox News Audio and the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian Kilmeade, Jimmy Fallon, and Guy Benson standing up for what's right, live and via podcast. Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The voices America trusts. Download it now.
A former educator in Tennessee is accused of preying on students.
A former Tennessee school teacher has been formally charged with committing multiple sex crimes with her students. Taylor Cruz taught 5th grade at the John Coleman Elementary School in Rutherford County. She was suspended without pay last May and resigned after being accused of explicit communications and sexual contact with students. Among the 19 charges she's facing are 3 counts of child rape and 1 count of sexual battery by an authority figure. Cruz's bond is set at $100,000. A plea hearing is set for later this month. Karen McHugh, Fox News.
A Texas man who filmed himself raping a child has been sentenced to 60 years in prison after pleading guilty. Prosecutors say the abuse had been going on for years and that Mark Miller produced at least 5 videos of the victim. More than 7,900 migrants have been bused from Texas to the nation's capital. So says Texas Governor Greg Abbott, as his state continues to be overwhelmed by illegal border crossers.
Those sanctuary cities likely are going to have a lot more buses heading their way as the record-setting numbers down here at our southern border are not slowing down. And unfortunately for these border agents, there's no light on the horizon for them as there are no imminent policy changes. Just after sunrise, like clockwork, every single day we get large groups crossing here in Eagle Pass. This group in particular, about 200 in total. As usual, almost all of them single adults. A majority of them will be released into the country. They are mostly from Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, not subject to Title 42. Border Patrol considers a large group more than 100 people. Well, here in the Del Rio sector, they have had more than 345 of these large groups since October.
That's Fox's Bill Maluzhin reporting from Eagle Pass, Texas. I'm Pam Huso, and this is Fox News.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I'm your host, Gregory Ricks, a financial advisor here to answer your questions and help you win with your money.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
That's exactly what I needed to know. Simple information from good people.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Could this be your Social Security, your 401k, pension, lump sum, your debt, student debt, credit cards?
You all are so good. I've listened to you for years. Sometimes I'll pull over to the side of the road and just listen.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Welcome. You're listening to Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. Hope you're having a great weekend. I am. Love the weekends. Love Fridays. Love Mondays. And love that weekend in between. And then getting through the week to the next weekend. How about that? Gotta work. And got to play, got to relax. All those things in the mix. It's kind of life. But this show is live financial news talk radio. We bring to you every Saturday at this time. And what's my purpose? Help you keep the money compounding. Make better financial decisions. You know, I've got a thought for you. Well, my background, I'm CEO, founder of Gregory Ricks and Associates, the Total Wealth Authority, financial advisory firm, helping people with their income planning, investment planning, estate planning, tax planning, healthcare planning, and more. We're a sounding board as well. And here's a thought. I knew he was selling something. You want to know what we're selling? A process. That's it. A process. You can come in and visit with us. The first visit, don't bring checkbook. You're not going to make no financial decisions. You might learn some stuff to impact some decision making, but you're not going to make financial decisions on that first visit, meaning we're not doing anything. You're not signing on paperwork. We have no expectation of that. And somebody else said, well, what if I want to? You could. Sometimes we have people say, yeah, Gregory, I've listened to your show for 6 years and I'm ready to get started. Well, we can start that process, but there's stuff we have to cover anyhow because we have to make sure we're a fit, both directions, and make sure we can bring value. And also from that other side, some core things that we look for. Are you a nice person? Do I think you're going to be nice to our staff? Are you going to buy into our process? Meaning you're going to believe in our process is going to help you. Because I think it's what separates us from everybody else is the guided planning system process. Oh, another thing. Are you going to be a good steward of your money? That's important as well. So that's kind of some of the things we use to determine a fit. And then are we going to be able to bring value? And that could be defined as help you with these decisions, help you along the path, give you direction, help you with what you're needing, bring value. Example of not bringing value. some time back had a discussion with a fella, and his basic worry was, I think I'm going to run out of money. I just wanted to talk to you about it and see if there's anything I should do. And he was right. He's going to run out of money. And I kind of targeted that loosely. And it's not an exact point because he could impact it. But probably somewhere 6, 7, 8 years out, he's going to deplete his funds at the spend rate. So we talked about the spending and income coming in, and I did the math. And there was another firm managing that money, but the question was, what can be changed? Well, 2 simple things. Need to reduce the spend and generate additional income to solve for that. And maybe he could for a few years do that, but that wasn't going to be an open-ended thing to go work from now on. And here's what I defined. I said, hey, Mike could better manage that money, but I cannot fix your issue of depletion. And I didn't see it was worth him changing who's managing the money. And I personally kind of have a problem feeing assets that are going to be depleted. I didn't think that was the best scenario for him. So that was where we weren't a fit because we couldn't bring value. We couldn't solve the problem that he has. So that's an example of things that we look at from that standpoint. So those of you that, you can call into the radio show today, and if you want to start a conversation, 504-260-0995. We're streaming live over on Facebook Live. You can just put it up on your big screen there and watch the show. We're also over on YouTube. Resources for that's my website, GregoryRicks.com. Go to I believe it's in the media tab there. But you can also use your smartphone, download the Winning at Life app, and connect to all those great things through the Winning at Life app. You can also text, email, call the show, and that gets you a part of the Winning at Life Nation. Then you could maybe tune into our Wednesday Q&A, our Ask Gregory podcast. We've got a bunch of seasons, and we're continuing to add to that. The website, another great resource there is over at GregoryRicks.com is the news blog where we put up articles on a regular basis from my reading that I think is important. And I've got probably somewhere around 25 to 30 more articles I'm going to turn over to my team that I've read recently that I think is going to be important. So they'll be posting those in the near future of relevant stuff. Today, we're talking about Social Security. I've got some questions to cover with you and thoughts, and I'll take your questions on Social Security, estate planning, taxes, investing, or what you want to know about the guided planning system, IRAs, Roth conversions. What do you want to do about that 401k? And I'll take you through a couple of updates on the Invest 50/50 philosophy as well. So when we come back from this break here, we're going to get into a Social Security article. Tom Marginaw, and he's got a pretty cool book. Let me get this book over here. Here's the book. Simple and Social Security, Simple and Smart. Short read, good information. I think it's very, very readable short book on Social Security, but we're going to talk about that some. Article here I've got that he wrote as well. I'm going to reference. And we'll keep this thing going and help you with your money. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
My mother just inherited a couple of annuities.
If you could explain the difference between a government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision is.
You now make too much income to contribute to a Roth IRA.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
You all are so good.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
What's cooking, Gumbo Nation? This is Dwayne Stein, your local mortgage lender. Bread prices up. Milk is up. Inflation way up. I know this can all be overwhelming. That's why you need to know I got you. Tens of thousands have trusted me and my team with their largest investment, the home. So while things look cloudy, let's work to make sure when the dust settles, your family is ready to take advantage. Visit mortgagegumbo.com.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can listen to the show live, and if we're not on at the moment, you can hear a replay of the latest episode of Winning at Life. Whether you're getting a late start on your retirement savings or keeping up with the financial news, Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is there, on demand. Hear the Winning at Life show on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
Half of estate planning is having a plan put together for your loved ones when you pass away. The other half of estate planning is dealing with someone else's plan when they pass away. Sometimes they have a great plan, but sometimes you need a little help. Don't leave your loved ones in a bind. Call me, and we'll make sure you have a plan. Hi, I'm Wes Blanchard, an estate planning attorney in Metairie. What's your plan? Find me at wjblanchardraw.com.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
If you do not have money set aside, you do not have retirement assets, you don't have significant savings, you're thinking, well, when should I turn on Social Security? I'll answer that for you right now. You should probably work as long as you possibly can and as much as you can, because that means you defer Social Security as long as you can up to age 70. And you can keep working past that. That's fine. But at age 70, you have to turn it on because you've maximized it there. And you've created the largest possible payment, and you're going to need all of that.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
You're listening to Winning at Life, financial talk radio. If you want to join the conversation, 504-260-0995. You can check us out on our Winning at Life Facebook page, and my page is Gregory Ricks. You can go over there and check us out. Watch the show. The website's GregoryRicks.com. Share with you a couple of upcoming events. And this will be actually on public events, speaking about what we do and how we help people on a stage. This is the last two overall events for the year. On September 20 and 21st, we'll have a wine, wisdom, and food experience at Fleming's Steakhouse and Wine Bar in Metairie. This is where we do a presentation about the guided planning system. Our process is really what I'll be talking about, and Nicholas will be talking about. Nicholas is one of the wealth advisors on the team as well. At this event, we talk about the guided planning system. Some question I always ask is that who's been to a financial seminar before? And usually anywhere from maybe a quarter to half the people, oh yeah, I've been to one before. And I say, well, this is different, isn't it? Because we started with champagne. You've had a white wine with your salad. We're going to pair a red with the entree, which is going to be a filet. And then you're going to have a dessert. And by the way, and this is, I'm telling them this at 6:30 was when we start actually speaking, but they've already had their salads. They've had, and we do a champagne toast. See, we're doing something that's fun. But I'm also talking through it. But hey, when the entree's served, I'm going to take a 12-minute break. Enjoy your time with your friends, enjoy your entree, and then we'll pick back up. So we kind of do this throughout to where it is a fun experience. You're going to learn some stuff about money. You're going to get tips and ideas. And you're going to have some good food, make some new friends. And at 10 minutes after 8, this is a wrap. You'll have had dessert, you've fed. I will have covered all the material. And then we're done. It's not like we're going to speak for an hour and then you get to eat. No, we do it throughout. I like it because it's fun. I have a good time presenting and helping share our guided planning system with you. So what this comes down to is I've decided this is our last 4 of this year. I did have others scheduled out into the year, and I am not doing any more this year. So if you want an opportunity, you've been putting it off, saying, well, Gregory, he always has one coming up. Well, I won't. So once again, I've got dates of September 20th and 21st. We're going to be at Fleming's Prime Steakhouse and Wine Bar in Metairie. If you want to reserve a seat in one of these last 2 opportunities this year, call the office 504-832-9200. I've got another one on September 27th and 29th, which is the last one, and that's going to be at Keith Young Steakhouse in Madisonville, Louisiana. Once again, all these start 6:30. They're going to ask you to be there by 6:15 because we're serving food earlier than when I start speaking. So technically, it's starting about 6:20 in that case. So we'd rather you be there before then, signed in, but you have to sign up. So you have to call the office. You can't show up at Fleming's or at Keith Young Steakhouse and expect to get in because it's probably going to be full, especially now since I've let you know it's the final 4 of 2022. And there probably will not be any in 2023. We're changing some of the things we do, and some of the things we're going to focus on is events for existing clients next year. Is we're going to have some fun with existing clients. So once again, I think this is a kind of big announcement as things go, but this is the final 4 for this year, and there probably won't be any next year. So if you're putting it off, saying, I'll go later. Gregory's always doing those every month or so. He's speaking somewhere, doing something. I'm always on the radio show on Saturdays, but we will not be doing any wine, wisdom, and food experiences beyond September of this year. And at this time, not planning to schedule any in 2023. So if you want in, call the office. You have to RSVP. You can't just show up because it's going to be full. There won't be seating for you without a confirmed registration. And that office number to do so, you can call right now and get on the list. A team will call you back on Monday and give you a reservation, but you can't call and leave a voicemail guaranteeing it. You can't send an email, hey, I want to come and then show up. You have to get a call back and a confirmed reservation. That office number is 504-832-9200. And the email would be info@gregoryricks.com. So look forward to seeing you there. Sometimes we get these headlines out there where, attention seniors, 4 big Social Security changes coming in 2023. I'm pulling this article from Tom Marginaw. And you see these from time to time like, what? What's the big changes? You know, they could have just put the headline as, yeah, routine and boring Social Security updates coming. Read here for more of what's coming in 2023. You know, nobody would read that, so they probably tried to scare you. Oh my gosh. You need to be aware of these significant changes coming next year. Well, there's always tweaks and adjustments, so let's talk about those that are coming next year. First of all, there will be an annual cost of living adjustment in January. In the coming weeks, we'll have a better idea of what that's going to be, but because inflation has been running high, the next COLA will also be high. Perhaps it might be somewhere around the 10% mark. Yeah, that's a significant increase that's coming. Also, you know, and in this, it's just the way sometimes these ads or articles are done is to scare you, and it also might be something behind somebody's trying to sell you something. So instead of just announcing the upcoming COLA, the national paper could have done their readers a real service and answered the question that everyone has been asking. And I get this a lot. We've gotten it on the radio show. And that question usually goes something like this. I was planning to wait until I reached full retirement age later in 2023 to file for my Social Security. But I want to get the benefits of the projected big COLA increase. So do I have to file for my reduced early benefits in 2022 in order to get the 10% increase in my benefits in early 2023? That's assuming it's the 10%. It could be 9%. I'm not giving you a specific number, but it's going to be significant increase. So once again, do I have to file for reduced benefits? Do I have to file now in order to get that 10% increase in benefits in early 2023? And the answer is no. You don't have. The answer is no. If you aren't getting benefits when the COLA comes on January of 2023, the same COLA increase is built into Social Security benefit formula for future Social Security benefits. It's going to be baked in the cake. You're going to get that credit even if you wait and turn on your benefits next year. You don't have to go and start early to do so. The next big change the article had hyped is the routine and annual increase in the wage base. The amount of income subject to Social Security payroll tax. That limit is $147,000 this year and will automatically increase next year based on increases in the National Average Wage Index. This has gone up every year for the past 30 years. So this change doesn't affect most people listening to this radio show. It only affects those who will still be working and making more than $147,000 a year. So if you're in that group, I suppose you could classify this as a big change. But it's absolutely not a surprise or an expected change that's coming. It'll be aggravating to those that like, gosh, they could just keep increasing the amount that's of my income that's Social Security is taxes pulled from. Yeah, it's baked in the cake, so it's really not a fact for most people. And that other one, we're going to talk more about this when I come back, but that other thing is, yeah, your future benefits are going to be increased because of COLA, even though you're not taking it yet. So don't have to run out there and jump and, I got to get in now to get that. No, you're good. You don't have to do anything. They got your back. You're listening to Winning at Life. with Gregory Ricks. We're going to take a 3-4 minute break here, and we'll be right back.
You all are so good. I've listened to you for years.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I am near retirement, and I wish I would have been listening to y'all for the last couple of years.
Learn the ins, outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world.
I have a broker. He has no idea what you and I just talked about.
From your 401k to your IRA to your pension to your Social Security to your Medicare.
Hi, Greg. Appreciate your service to the community.
From your ETFs to your precious metals.
The program helps to ground me. There's some personal, real life there.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and wherever else you can find podcasts probably.
That's exactly what I needed to know.
Hey, I love your show.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. The firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government or any governmental agency.
What does your ideal retirement look like? Is it traveling the world, fishing whenever you want, spending time with the grandkids, or maybe you don't know yet? Hi, I'm Gregory Ricks. Let us help you plan the retirement you deserve. Give us a call or go to GregoryRicks.com to schedule a visit. We are Gregory Ricks & Associates, the Total Wealth Authority.
The firm provides insurance services, investment, and advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management, LLC, and Gregory Ricks & Associates are not affiliated companies.
Concerned about market volatility, rising inflation, higher taxes? How could it impact you? Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals and win at retirement.
Wine, Wisdom, and Food with Gregory Ricks, Tuesday, September 27th, or Thursday, September 29th, 6:30 at Keith Young Steakhouse in Madisonville. Reserve your seat now, 985-200-3110 or GregoryRicks.com. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
We are living in historic times, extraordinary times. A lot of people need help right now, and I want you to remember your local food bank. Now here in New Orleans, it's Second Harvest Food Bank. Over in Mobile, they've got Feeding the Gulf. But you can find your local food bank, feedingamerica.org. Food donations, monetary donations, or I know you've got some free time. Find your local food bank. Support your local food bank, especially in times like this. Do some good. feedingamerica.org.
Fox News, I'm Karen McHugh. Buckingham Palace announces that the funeral for Queen Elizabeth II will take place a week from Monday, September 19th at Westminster Abbey. President Biden says he will be in attendance. Earlier, in an elaborate ceremony, King Charles III was officially proclaimed monarch.
So much tradition already taking place today, like the Ascension ceremony. But one thing that is interesting about this, no one participating today had ever done this before, because the last time that this kind of ceremony took place was in 1952. Among some of the notable faces that appeared today in the crowd of roughly 200 people were members of the royal family, as well as past prime ministers, including Boris Johnson, Tony Blair, Theresa May, and David Cameron. The ancient ceremony marks the official change within the monarchy, and it's the first time that this event had ever been televised.
Fox's Alex Hogan. America is listening to Fox News.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is a copyright of Down South Strategies for the private use of our audience. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without express consent is prohibited. For podcasts, show information, and contacts to our sponsors, go to winningatlife.com or download the Winning at Life app. If you have a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
When was the last time you did something for the first time? Let yourself go and follow that feeling. Maybe something new is what you need.
Welcome back. You're listening to Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. We do this show for you every Saturday, and actually it's a 3-hour show. Started at 10 this morning, and it'll be a wrap starting my weekend at 1 o'clock. We'll check on some football scores and have lunch and enjoy the rest of the weekend. Got a few chores to do and maybe a couple fun things to do as well, just like the rest of you out there. Hopefully we're bringing you some value as well. One thing I want to share again is we are doing 4 more events, 2 in Metairie and 2 in Madisonville. And that's the Wine, Wisdom, and Food Experience. The events that I put on and talk about the guided planning system process. That's our process that we take people through on the planning process to help them with income planning, investment planning, tax planning, estate planning, healthcare planning, and there's a few other parts of our process that I cover. That's kind of the core. The sounding board, or added value benefits is another part of the process. Yeah, it is. And it's a dining experience along with that conversation mixed in during the event. So you start off with a glass of champagne. Your salad's going to be paired with the white wine. Your filet's going to be paired with a red. And there's dessert. And I'll take a couple breaks here and there for the dining, but we do this kind of all at once. So it's a timed event. Salad to be served like at 6:20. I'll start speaking at 6:30. We'll take a 12-minute break for the entree, and then things will wrap somewhere between 8 o'clock and 8:10, but no longer. And it's fun, and you're going to get value. The thing about it, it's the last 4 of this year. I've canceled the rest of the year's events. I know some of you are like, I want to go, but I'll go later. Gregory's doing more. No, there won't be more. No more this year, except for September 20th and 21st, Fleming Steakhouse and Wine Bar in Metairie, and then September 27th and 29th, Keith Young Steakhouse in Madisonville. That's it for this year, and we're probably not scheduling any for next year. My chief financial officer said, don't use the word never. You might change your mind. So I'm not going to say never, but we don't have any planned for next year, and I don't intend to plan any. There's other events that we're going to do that are more client-oriented there. So you can always find out more about what we're doing on the radio show because we're here every Saturday. But if you want to, you have to register for those events. You can't just show up because it's going to be full. You won't get a seat. And it's probably filling up because this is it. You can't wait and say, well, I'll go in October or November. No, there won't be any. 504, here's the number to the office where you can get your reserved seat confirmed. It's 504-832-9200. Or you can email info@GregoryRicks, and then a team member will follow back up with you and give you a confirmed reservation on this limited event that we have going. Okay, let me get back to this Social Security topic. I love me some Social Security. You know, it's for majority of the people, it is a government pension that you have. That is what Social Security is. And we use the phrase SSA, that stands for Social Security Administration. Social Security Administration. So if you want to go to the website, it's ssa.gov for help. And one of the important things regarding Social Security is you probably should set up your account, your online account. A lot of people say, I've not done that. Well, I would rather you set it up than somebody else, especially if you are nearing FRA. That creates some exposure for you there, because when somebody say they set up an account for you and they do it on their behalf for you, and you're beyond FRA, because after FRA, you could get 6 months retroactive. So if they're going to if they've got access to your identity and set up the account, they could go in there and start at 6 months after your FRA and get the retro benefit. They will have already got the check, maybe a couple of payments before it's figured out that, oh no, this happened. But better be safe than sorry. You set up your account. You got to be a little bit familiar, like, who's your mortgage payment with or who you financed your last car with and all, because they're pulling some information from credit bureau and giving you some questions that only you should know, unless your identity was stolen or credit bureau information was stolen. So rather it be you. And one of the things, and you say, well, I'm not nowhere near retirement age. Let's say you're 50. I still think you should go set it up. Why? You can go and check and make sure you're being credited each year. Even if you're age 25, I think you should set it up. Why? Because you can check each year and making sure you're getting proper credit. That money withheld and the Social Security earnings on your check, your W-2 at the end of the year, make sure those numbers match up with what's credited on the Social Security record. We've had people calling like, I noticed my benefit had went down, so I got to checking and I wasn't properly credited last year. So you have 2 years and a few months to go back and get that corrected, what was done wrong in the past. It's not like, well, I found a mistake 8 years ago. Not going to happen. You can go as far back as 2 years and a few months. Or this year's record, you have 2 years, and I'll just call it a few months to get that corrected. So it's something that, another little thing you got to keep up with. Okay, so let's go back to this article with kind of a misleading headline about big changes. So we covered first two. So here's the third. The third big change the news story talked about is the increase in retirement age. Question, is that news? It changes every year. It's absolutely not news. The law increasing the retirement age from 65 to 67 years was passed in 1984. See, that's an example of them making a change, and then it takes decades to implement. They spread it out. And it's been gradually phased in over the past 40 years. We have reached a point now where the retirement age is 66 years and 6 months, and the people born in 1957 will reach their full retirement age in 2023. So those hitting FRA next year, it will be when they turn 66 years and 6 months during the year next year. That would be their full retirement age in 2023. But once again, those of the articles, who doesn't know that? Okay, how about number 4 here? And finally, the fourth big change is the increase in the earnings penalty limits for Social Security recipients under their full retirement age who might be working part-time. The limit is currently $19,560. For every $2 you earn over that limit, $1 will be withheld from your Social Security benefits. But once again, the update to the limit is an automatic increase that has happened every year for the past 30 years or more. It's not a big deal. It's adjusted. It's going to be adjusted next year. It'll be a bit higher than that. So if you've turned it on, Social Security pre-FRA, and you make more than that, yeah, they're going to claw back some money. So is that news? Is that a big change? See, essentially I gave you 4 topics here, and these are adjustments that are being made every year. Once again, I hope we don't get giant increases in Social Security every year. Why? Because that's because of inflation is going to keep going, and inflation is not going to keep going at this pace. Why? History tells us so. But I think we're going to have inflation at a higher rate than in the 2010s next year. but probably will not inflate as much as it has this year. Hey, I'm going to take a 3-minute break, and then we're going to come back, talk about the guided planning system.
If you've got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory.
You know, I'd like you to find some place that I call your retirement home. I don't mind home ownership. There might be some tax advantages or not. It just is kind of control if you can find that place that fits your lifestyle and your budget, because here's what you have as a renter. Unknowns is raise the rent. Bob, I don't want to rent to you anymore. I'm going to sell the house, or no, my son needs that house. So that leaves you a lot of what ifs, and that now you've got to go find someplace else there. So it is something worth considering, and it sounds like from a budget standpoint and asset standpoint, you have that. You've got to manage that taxable event and how that hits you in doing so.
Gregory Ricks and Associates. Find us at GregoryRicks.com or call 504-832-9200. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Oh, Rover, you have fleas again? Prevent fleas and ticks from setting up shop in your backyard. Those bloodsuckers can bite up to 400 times a day and carry nasty diseases like typhus and tapeworms. Give Rover some relief and contact Mosquito Joe. Their mosquito control services also kill and prevent fleas and ticks. Let Mosquito Joe be your first line of defense against those blood-sucking pests. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Could this be your Social Security, your 401k, pension lump sum, your debt, student debt, credit cards?
You all are so good. I've listened to you for years. Sometimes I'll pull over to the side of the road and just listen.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
At the core, I always tell people, I'm not here to make you rich. I'm here to make sure you don't run out of money, that you don't run out of income. That's how I look at my job. Over time, saving, making good decisions can make you rich. But what you have is, what is your core thing? Your core thing should be making money. And your core thing, you should set aside money to work elsewhere. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to put it to risk. You could put it to safety. But your core thing makes you money, or you tell me your core thing is the market, day trading, or gambling in the market. It shouldn't be. You should have a core thing that makes you money, and you peel some off for the future when you're done with your core.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
I'm hooked on kissing you, getting you turned on, buzzing and loving on you all night long, like I hear songs.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back. We just got a few minutes to go here. If you want to join the conversation, last chance coming up, 504. Last chance for this show, because we're done at 1. 504-26. We'll start again. 504-2600-995 to join the conversation, or reach out to us through the Winning at Life app. Email info@GregoryRicks.com. Remember, our final 4 events on the Wine, Wisdom, and Food coming up September 20th and 21st at Fleming's Prime Steakhouse in Metairie, Louisiana. And then on September 27th and 29th, Wine, Wisdom, and Food Experience, Keith Young Steakhouse. You need to RSVP. Those are the last 4 events for this year. So if you're putting it off, stop putting it off. That's it for this year. Call the office 504-832-9200. Email info@GregoryRicks.com. Just looking at a couple other articles here. I kind of like the topic today, Social Security, so hopefully you got a great bit of value out of that. So when somebody comes into our office, person comes into our office and there's a number of assessments that we want to work on if that first visit, that first fit visit is successful. So then you'll probably want to schedule another visit to come back in to see the Social Security analysis, to see the tax efficiency report, to also take a look at your risk analysis, and probably want to take a look at what your one-page plan looks like. Probably also to see how might the invest 50-50 philosophy improve your situation. So those are some of the things we provide and go over in the second visit. And if we were indeed a fit and are bringing value in that second visit, we could technically start working on some things to help you improve and make adjustments going forward. So that's kind of that process. At some point, visit 3 or 4, visit 4 probably likely is where you get a binder delivery with your plan in it, and there's a number of other areas, and those reports and assessments that we provided are put in that binder, and then the plan going forward is in that binder. The communication plan for you going forward in that risk report, and then that binder is something you're going to have to keep up with your information and bring in whenever you come back in, and we'll update some of those documents as we make tweaks and adjustments going forward. So that kind of gives you an idea of that system that we have there. One of the things, had a discussion recently, was about turning on Social Security. Why might somebody regret doing that? I was interviewed by a publication about that particular topic right there. I believe it was last week. And I thought of two things. Why might you want to look at what's necessary to turn off Social Security? One of them is that you thought you weren't going to get work and you needed the money, so you turned it on, and then all of a sudden you've got work and you're going back to work, and you're kind of like, oh my gosh, what do I do now about this Social Security I turned on? Because I'm going to be making more than $19,540, so they're going to claw it back. Another reason you might regret having turned it on is you figure out you're retiring, but you just don't have enough money, that you're making a decision to go back to work to improve your situation further down the road. Here's what you can do. Here's your options regarding Social Security. If you're in the first year, you could submit a withdrawal of benefits. And basically that's defined as sending them notice or making a verbal application to them. And what you're wanting to do is to stop the benefits, and you're going to pay back what you received during the first 12 months. And you can only do this during the first 12 months of having turned on Social Security, that you could withdraw it and make it as if it never happened. If you miss that window, you're drawing Social Security. Your next window is when you turn FRA, you can suspend the benefits. That's right. Once you make FRA, you're kind of like, I'd like to stop this and building it back up. So you can only suspend it once you've reached full retirement age, and suspending it at that point, you start earning those delayed credits, which on an annualized basis is about 8% simple interest. Once you reach age 70, it would automatically restart again. Now, let me explain this. Somebody brought up, what about spousal benefit? Would that impact the spouse's benefit? Yes, it would suspend the spouse's benefit as well if they're drawing the spousal benefit off of your work record. So you have to consider that as well. So if you have that regret about turning it on, you've got a couple of options there. Another regret is locking in a reduced benefit going forward. That's what you've done. You've locked in a permanent lower amount for yourself. You've also locked in if your benefit is the survivor benefit of the couple, meaning you pass before your spouse and yours is a larger check, you've locked in a lower benefit permanently by turning it on early. And that might be another reason to rethink that. I think Social Security being turned on is a giant, did I say giant? It's a giant decision. And it is something that you and your spouse should discuss. This should be a joint discussion, a joint decision, not just one of you. Oh, honey, by the way, I turned on Social Security today. What? You didn't talk to me about it? Yeah, let's not make some errors there. It's a big decision. In fact, call my office. Let us run some analysis to help you through that and see some of the math and the data and help walk you through that. Just an idea there. The office number is 504-832-9200. Okay, a couple changes. You know, the invest 50-50 philosophy, that investment process that we have inside of the guided planning system process, you know, the 5 core areas, not just the 5 areas we work with, you know, but 5 core: income planning, investment planning, estate planning, tax planning, and healthcare planning. The investment side, we've got 4 prominent asset classes. I like me some stocks, but through exchange-traded funds. I like me some bonds, but more alternative because interest rates are going up. I like me some quantitative tactical because I want some of my money following where momentum shifts to. If there's no momentum, like ugly environment, I want it to go to cash. And then I like index-linked investment. Well, something we've added to the stock side is buffer ETFs to protect you from a portion of the downside while still giving you upside potential. If you want to know more about that, call my office, 504-832-9200. Go to GregoryRicks.com. See you here next Saturday.
Firm offers insurance services. Gregory Ricks & Associates is an independent financial services firm that utilizes a variety of investment and insurance products. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management and Gregory Ricks & Associates are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for a financial decision, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Gregory Ricks & Associates is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein, provided by third parties, have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Gregory Ricks & Associates. Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences, including, but not limited to, a need for additional tax withholding or estimated tax payments, the loss of certain tax deductions and credits, and higher taxes on Social Security benefits and higher Medicare premiums. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA. Neither AE Wealth Management nor advisors providing investment advisory services through AE Wealth Management, recommend or facilitate the buying or selling of cryptocurrencies. Third parties and guests of the show are not affiliated with, nor do their opinions reflect those of Gregory Ricks and Associates or AE Wealth Management. AE Wealth Management provides services without regard to political affiliation, and the views of individual advisors are not necessarily the views of AE Wealth Management. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
WRNO FM, New Orleans, an iHeart radio station. Available everywhere on our free iHeart radio app. #1 for music, radio, and podcasts, all in one.